Aloha. So I wanted to share today something I read on authenticmaya.com. This is seeing a website with some. This story is the Mayan cosmology on that website. And I thought I'd have a Mayan moment and go from there and see if I can look back into some of the get back to some of the flat earth stuff and get into how all of our surroundings are manipulated to create an idea of a global mentality. Example would be global warming and that whole thing, just the verbiage on that, the word global right there, and to have that word repeated over and over again, just like on the news. I was thinking about how the meteorologists fit into the whole programming mentality a while back, and I started to see all these curved pictures, curved Earth pictures in the backgrounds, and when they're showing their maps, they're showing all these little subtle images of whatever. They don't really know what they're talking about. They can't predict any of the future and all that stuff. It's just a ridiculous game. You look in the background picture of the news stations and all you see is pictures of globes and all these other things in the background, and so they don't never talk about other, because in the other videos this is what the news thinks the world looks like right now. These old maps. These are these old maps that are still being used. And the Maya was telling stories already through images, just like the Egyptians were doing in their pyramids, through images, through stories. I'll read that in a second, but this is in relation to just bridging the connection between the Maya and the ancient Kemet, the Egyptians. It's there's all these stories that by me just going through and sharing just stuff that I put together, images that I just put together, and I guess I'm hungry and should eat something. My stomach is growling, but I wanted to get this done for. Okay, so flat Earth. I'll go back into that and some of the images. Oh yeah, so the meteorologists out there, all the subtle stuff that's in the background, like it's just not limited to the fear programming that comes from the news. It's just not supposed to make you feel a certain way and think a certain way about certain races and certain things. It gets down to the fine details of even the emotions that get sprung up from seeing a particular style of human being on a repeated scale over and over again in your face, saying this is a successful experience, this is a person and a successful experience, and we're going to show you the news of what unsuccessful people look like. I got the picture. Yeah, so there's a whole game that is being played with blood, and we're spilling this blood is being spilled on the streets, and it's been going on for a long time, all the way back beyond all these other images, including and connecting to what happened with the Mayan and the blood spilling back there. But you can't just throw everything out the window. The Mayans were known as the ancient timekeepers. So there's information there that if you look, that's what the movies and the news and propaganda is all for, is to make you focus only on one version of reality, only one version of a story, only one version of our experience. One version of anything is a very linear approach. They just want to fill this space with lines when we got circles everywhere. So so I'll start by explaining this, and I'll go back into the conditioning patterns and the connections later on. So this picture is really just this and the other side of the page. So I'll read it and hold the camera right here. Um, so representation of the Maya universe with the sacred tree. I'm gonna mess up these names. Bear with me. Yakshi saber tree and the Bakabs in the corners holding the earth. Each of the 13 Ka'an heaven levels had its Oxhuntiku or main god with Hunab Ku, father of the twins, and the maize god at the top. The earth Kab, represented as a Kaiman, is the Tultakan, Tultaka god, or god, we don't know the number, and Jibaba or underworld with 9 levels, and its gods or Bolonti Kung being Anpu, the god of the death in the lower level. So we're talking about these 9 on the bottom and these 13 on the top, and with the whole. So these are just layers, just like not exactly like this next, but the step pyramids in relation to storytelling and the buildings, and just like relation to how the Egyptians told stories with the buildings of the pyramids in Giza and all the hieroglyphics and all the other ancient structures that were put up. So back to this. East, Lakain is the direction of the sunrise, associated with red chalk, the color of dawn. West, Chikin, is in the direction of the sunset. Its color is black. North, Kaman, is white. Sat, the color of the south. Nahal is yellow. Khan, green. Yaks is the color of the center of the green saber tree. Yakshe, representing the great world tree itself. Raised in the center cosmos. Center of the cosmos. Raised in the center of the cosmos. So this goes back to the flat earth stuff that I was talking about with, I mean, it doesn't directly, but how I was seeing it is linking back to the whole black hole theories and the checkerboard. And I was also looking at the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus last night. That's a good story to watch again, to see a lot of the symbols that Hollywood is putting out there, but also the connection with Heath Ledger and his whole story. That's a really good story to go check out and see what was being said in that storyline. Lots of symbols in there. With the whole checkerboard realm, in between dimensions, storylines, planets as the main thing. Planets, Jupiter and Saturn, connections to evil. They got representations of the Satan and Saturn and Jupiter, and then you can connect these stories to the Back to the Future stories. Like Hollywood is an algorithm itself. There's all kinds of stories that are going on in there, and the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus is a very big one that was out there, where yeah, you can see the symbols everywhere. So back to this. This tree was a conduit of communication between the supernatural world and the human world. So the rest is the souls of the dead fell into Shibaba along its path. So the souls of the dead fell into Shibaba along its path. The daily journeys of the sun, moon, planets, and stars followed its trunk. The vision serpent, symbolizing communion with the world of the ancestors and the gods, emerged into our world along it. The king was the axis and pivot point, and pivot made flesh. He was the tree of life. The king sustained his people, and he also required much from them in way of service. So I'll jump straight from that and this image into reading what I read earlier here. Let's see if I can get I'll hold it and read it. So this is in relation to why the pyramids were aligned with the stars are saying. And this is from this book, just a book I had laying. The 70 Great Ancient Mysteries. So here, the alignment of the pyramid base using the northern stars ensured that it was oriented to the celestial pole, the invisible point in the sky which appeared to govern the movement of the stars and the other celestial bodies. The entrance, exit passages, slash exit passages of all pyramids until the Middle Kingdom were also directed towards the northern circumpolar region. The shafts in the Great Pyramid seem to be intended to provide symbolic exit routes for the spirit of the deceased king, directing him towards particular stars or constellations with which he hoped to be associated after death. Aligning the pyramids with stars therefore provided a link between the king's earthly burial place and the celestial realm within which he intended to spend eternity in the company of sun, stars, and gods. So that's speaking of this realm right here from the Egyptian perspective. Here they're talking about this plane, this earth plane, and it's saying within the company of the sun, the stars, and the gods. That's this place. So that's this deepest story. That's what these pyramids were built to maintain, that story through humanity. You are built of the sun, the stars, and the gods on this plane, and there are various layers that have added up to this experience. I'll read the rest of this real quick, and then I'll go into the pyramid layer. Or that is the calendar stages, and this is the geometry and storyline of how this plane was built up, just like this pyramid is built up. So back to this. For the Maya, the trees constituted the ambient living environment, the material form from which they fashioned homes and tools, the source of many foods, medicines, dyes, and vital commodities such as chocolate and paper. They provided the fuel for cooking fires and the soil-enriching ash that came from cutting and burning of the forest. Trees were the source of shade in the courtyards and public places of villages and cities, and the home of teeming life of the forest. It was natural that the Maya would choose this central metaphor for human power. Like other trees, the king was at once the ambient source of life and the material from which humans constructed it. Together, the kings of the Maya realms comprised a forest-sustaining human world trees within the natural forested landscape of the Mayan world. So, I'll read the rest of it. Paris Codex, this is they're saying, I don't know if I can zoom in. Paris Codex showing the creation. Note the central Ceiba tree creation. Creation of the earth sky is the central motif of the Maya myth religion. The creation of the present world, the world of humankind, was only one act in the eternal cycle of birth, death, and renewal. The cycle of seasons. I don't know if I read that other part. Yeah. The cycle of seasons and the stars and their courses are reflections of this cosmic dance. I realize, in quotation, I realize that every major image of the Maya cosmic symbolism was probably a map of the sky. So these are all just like the the Orion pyramid stuff and everything built. We tell our stories. It's all one big story. The stars are a reflection of us. We are our reflection of the stars. So we are the sun and the moon. Or the sun in the day and the moon in the night, and we are those reflections. So this whole, back to the whole dome stuff. There's a storyline on the planet as the planet, and we are the storyline. And there's a story in the stars in the sky that we are a reflection of. That the Mayan and the Egyptians were telling these stories, and a whole bunch of other cultures, civilizations were already telling these stories, but as well, not just the Egyptians and the Mayas. I'm just doing this video as a little bridge right now, and then I'll finish this between the Maya and Kemet. So the patterns in the Milky Way. I realized that every major from the Maya cosmic symbolism was probably a map of the sky. The patterns in the Milky Way and the constellations were directly related to the Maya vision of creation. This is Linda Shield and Fredo Shield and Parker, Maya Cosmos. The Popol Vuh preserved this tradition of successive creations or world orders. According to the Popol Vuh, the gods created humans to honor them. There would be no high days and no bright praise for our work, our design, until the rise of human work, the human design. But their first three efforts were failures. The third failed race, people fashioned from wood, were destroyed in a universal flood. So that's like the Groot human stories. The antediluvian world was lorded over by Itzam Ye or Kiches Vukub Kaki, seven Makah, who took the place of the sun to prepare for the creation of the true humans. The rule of the seven Makah had to be ended. This was achieved by hero twins of the Popol Vuh who shot seven Makah from his tree. So anyway, the next time I'll go into this image, which explains the various layers building up to today, and you can see planetary, galactic, and universal layers of our existence. See you next time. Peace.